Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here to share with you the secret core of all great mixes. Now, as engineers, we love to obsess about the fun stuff. Gear, instruments, fancy pants techniques. But have you ever sat back and wondered to yourself where great mixes truly begin? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the secret core of all great mixes. Are you ready for what that core is? A great arrangement. Now, if you're new to production, this might not seem that obvious, but what I want you to do is think about an orchestra in your mind. Think about all the moving parts that are happening, both frequency response wise and also on a musical level. Now, when you listen to a great orchestra, everything is in balance. There's never conflicting notes happening in the low end or in the mid range or in the top end. Everything has its own place sonically and musically. But here's the thing, there's no one controlling what you're hearing outside of the musicians and the conductor. The mix is happening right in front of you at the source. And production within your DAW is no different. It doesn't matter what genre, hip hop, pop, indie rock, death metal, it doesn't matter. Now, because I specialize in the hard rock and metal genres, I'm gonna use specific examples within those genres to demonstrate my point. Now, I've been doing this for a while now, and I see the same three issues come up time and time again that people often think are mix issues, and sometimes they can be, but more often than not, they're often arrangement issues. So let's dive right in. The first issue is the issue of low end. Now, if you've been mixing for any length of time, I'm sure low end is one of the things that you struggle with. We all struggle with it. Low end is a pain in the ass. Now, I'm gonna bring up some common issues with low end that sometimes people think are mix issues, but are not, they're arrangement issues. And the first one is when your kick drums are conflicting with your guitar or bass guitar. Now, if you're working with a heavy band with a lot of syncopated parts where the riffs should follow the kick drums, but the kick drums are not actually following the guitars as they should, you will end up with low end that's uneven and messy sounding. Now, again, when we're new to recording, a lot of times we want to dive in and have fun with EQ and add plugins, but we're not actually paying attention to what's happening deep within the arrangement. I see this happen time and time again. People will send me their mixes and say that, oh, my low end is all over the place. I can't get it to sound tight. But when I listen to the guitar parts, they're conflicting with the double bass. Another issue with low end is when the guitar parts are conflicting with the bass guitar. I can't even tell you the amount of times that bass players will come into the studio, start tracking their bass parts, and I'll notice that certain notes are clashing with the riffs. Now, if you record your tracks like this and you're not paying attention, you'll end up with a low end that doesn't sound right. But again, the conflict is happening on a musical level, not on a mix level. Now, this is why pre-production is so important. It's essential that you comb through all of the parts, whether it's your band or an artist that you're working with, to make sure that there are no conflicts taking place in the arrangement. Now, the third issue I see happen when it comes to low-end management at the arrangement level is when people go crazy layering in virtual instruments, not paying strict attention to what's happening in the low end of the virtual instruments on a musical level. So for example, if you have a specific bass line that's happening low on the neck, and you have a super duper low-end instrument in the background that's conflicting at the arrangement level, you're gonna end up with messy sounding low end. And again, people will send me their productions, ask what's happening in the low end that makes it sound so messy, and a lot of times it's a musical thing, not a mix thing. So keep these in mind if you're having some issues with your low end. Now, number two, overall mix clarity. A big one here that I see happen time and time again is when two guitar players in a band are not playing a riff 100% in sync with one another. Now, if you're working with an indie rock band, this isn't really gonna be an issue, but if you're talking about modern metal production where things have to be insanely tight, this will mess up the sound of your production. Again, this is why pre-production is important. You wanna make sure that the guitar players are playing the riffs properly and that there are no conflicts between the parts. Another issue I see happen is when parts are overly technical and are being glossed over at band rehearsal. So for example, let's say there's a specific guitar part that's conflicting with what the singer is singing, but no one's really paying attention in band rehearsal, and it's not really noticeable until you record the songs within the studio. A lot of times people will just layer these things within their production and then try to fix it in the mix, and it never ends up working right. You end up with a mix that's not clear and just really busy and messy sounding. But the reality is that it has nothing to do with frequencies, it all has to do with the arrangement. Again, another example of where you need to get the arrangement right at the source. And the final thing I want to mention as far as mix clarity is concerned are overdubs that are not serving the song. So for example, if you have a bunch of guitar leads happening that are conflicting with the rhythm guitars, the bass guitar, or the vocals, ask yourself, are they helping the song? Or am I just trying to show off in this particular part of the song? Again, this is why pre-production is super important. All of these little details will be held under a microscope and you can spot them and take care of them before you hit the studio. And if you're the engineer producing the sessions, this will help you spot issues before you set up all the mics and record the tracks for real. The third category I want to talk about are vocals. Now, when it comes to vocals, the one issue I see happen a lot are when there are vocal parts that conflict with specific chords within the chord progression. Again, if you're recording your own music and not paying close attention to these issues at the arrangement level, there's nothing you can do in the mix to fix this. This is something that has to be taken care of, again, at the source, at the arrangement level. Another problem I see happen with vocals time and time again are vocal parts that are written in a band setting, that work within a band setting, that all of a sudden don't work with all of the extra layering happening within a fancy pants production. So let me just clarify what I mean. You have a band, they write a song in a room, everything sounds great, but when they hit the studio, they add extra virtual instruments, extra guitar layers, extra vocal harmonies, and all of a sudden there's some clashing happening. Now, in order to combat this, especially if you're recording your own music, are these virtual instruments working? Are these extra layers working? It's easy to get carried away with extra tracks within our DAW, and a lot of times they can hurt the arrangement, which in turn will hurt your mix. So keep this in mind. Now, the last issue I see when it comes to arrangement and vocals are just too many vocal layers that, again, don't serve the song. So when it comes time to mix the song, you're dealt with all of these vocal layers that might not even belong there in the first place. A lot of times people will try to use all of the layers that were recorded and they end up getting into trouble in the mixing stage. And more often than not, you'll end up chasing your tail if those layers really don't work on a compositional level. Now, this is why a crappy iPhone recording of your band rehearsal is not good enough. I highly recommend demoing your songs and always recording some form of pre-production before hitting the studio. Even if you're the engineer and producer and you're recording your own band, spotting these issues early on will help the mixing process. Because believe me, the core of all great mixes is a great arrangement, and you want to start with a solid foundation. So set yourself up for success by avoiding these mistakes, and your mix will come together with ease. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And be sure to download my 5-step guide for better heavy mixes so you could achieve better sounding mixes with the gear you have right now. There's a link below, right within this video's description. Till next time, happy arranging.